And Warchant game day, the final Warchant game day of the regular season. I say regular season because who knows? There may be a Warchant game day offered up before the bowl game if Florida State is to win against the University of Florida. Now, it is a road game, I mind you, so the chances of that are almost zero. But just in case it is true, I'll lend you the caveat that this might be the penultimate Warchant game day instead of the final Warchant game day. Either way, we want to say thanks to all of you. We hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. We hope you had a great time with friends and family, or however it may be that you celebrate Thanksgiving. And we look forward to another year of football, no matter what my prognostication might be about said football next year with our friends at Hotel Indigo. Look forward to it. We want to thank them as well at the outset of this program, because that never gets old, no matter the status of the football team itself. Meeting you guys, talking with you guys, seeing folks week to week on a football fall Saturday afternoon and or evening is always enjoyable. And that view never gets old either. So if you've not stopped by Hotel Indigo in the past, make sure you do so in the future. We hope certainly we'll be there again next year. I see no reason why that should deviate. So it is that I welcome in my cohort, Tom Lang, one more time. Could be two more times. We'll see. Depends on how we're going to see this game playing out against Florida. It does, Tom, present rather awkwardly to have a game that has always been number one on your radar and certainly heightened in the minds and hearts of every Florida State fan everywhere, no matter if it's this or Miami that you care most about. To have it mean so very little. Florida cannot get to a bowl with a win. They would just get their fourth win and do so for an interim coach. And for Florida State, they could get to a bowl game, I should say, and could finish the regular campaign at 6-6. So a little bit more at stake, frankly, for Florida State than there is for Florida. We'll see if that has an impact on the game. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. Every time we sign on to do this particular show, I do have a tinge of emotion that rises up. It reminds me of that day that I walked into Doak Campbell Stadium for the first time, watching these two teams play against each other. After years of growing up, loving this game, thinking about this game the entirety of the year, it was the most important football day on my calendar. And I grew up as a Bucs fan during a pretty good era. The most important day on the calendar was Florida State in Tallahassee, in Gainesville, usually on ABC or CBS. And I remember it was a noon kick in 2006, led by Chris Leak. The Florida Gators came to town, and we hoped that Buster Davis and Lawrence Timmons would be enough because our offense wasn't so good, but our defense was that year in 2006. And I just remember how there's a soft sun in this town. It's actually out right now as we're recording this. In the wintertime, in the fall time, it's not as intense as it is when we start the season. And I just remember how gorgeous Bobby Bowden Field looked. It was not named that yet because Bobby was coaching that day. But I just remember how gorgeous it looked, and I felt almost like the dad and Rudy felt. These eyes I have never seen. Even though I'd been to many games, I'd never been to that one. And it was a really important day for me as a Florida State fan to finally see that. And, of course, we didn't win that football game. We'd have to wait 4 more years to win in that building that I got to see 31-7 over Urban Meyer and the Gators, and that was a great day. But I always feel that a little bit as we break down this game. And I hate that I have to analyze this game as though it is a bowl game because while Florida's not going to one, and we might not go to one, you wonder about motivations. You wonder about how guys are locked in. And you wonder about how if adversity strikes for either one of these two teams, are they in it? Are they going to be locked in? Are they going to be engaged for 60 minutes? I think Florida State stands a better chance on offense to do that. And on defense, to Darrell Jackson's credit, for example, there's a guy who's been consistently giving effort for Florida State and playing well for Florida State. There had been questions about would he be capable of such things earlier in his career, and he has been consistent week in and week out. Florida State has a few of those guys, and I expect them to play hard against Florida, but it's a tough game to handicap because usually the stakes are obvious. In this case, the stakes are anonymous.
One of the problems in the modern era of college football, of which there are many, there are also great rewards to the modern era of college football, some changes that I like, some that I absolutely loathe. One of them that I loathe is that I'm not so sure that rivalry games, and I'm not talking about Florida State, Florida specifically, but rivalry games of any kind matter nearly as much as they once did. I think that too is kind of going the way of the dodo because of the situation involving transient players to and fro, rented warriors, if you will, for a given season before moving on to the next stop. In the NFL, there are precious few rivalries that when you sit down to watch them, you think, this is different. These two teams absolutely hate each other. The players understand the magnitude of it and are going to play in a different manner than they normally play. There'll be an edge to it. There'll be a cheap shot late by the sidelines because that's what happens in rivalries. There'll be a little what for at the end of each play because that's what happens in rivalries. I'm not so sure that exists in the same manner that it once did. I think there are a few in which that is still the case. I think that Army-Navy will always be special. Then again, if you think about Army-Navy, one of the reasons that there's a great rivalry there is that those players are going nowhere. They are there year over year. They are building together towards something, and then they are locked in. College football doesn't feature that much anymore. And so I wonder sometimes if it's not preposterous to say that, hey, when they charge from that tunnel and they see the blue and the orange and the garnet and the gold, does it raise the sort of ire that it does for you and me and everybody else who grew up on this rivalry, or even players who played in this game years and years ago when the sport was different? Because if I could depend on it, if I could know that it was still a thing, then I would look forward to this game more than I am, because I would say that throw the records out as a real thing in a rivalry matchup. A lot of times that's what we used to say, even when the two teams weren't good for any rivalry, right? Not just Florida State, Florida. Hey, this might still end up being special because there's a little extra something to it and there's the history behind it. But the game's changed so much that I don't know that we won't just get the rock fight that we expect to get, which is that this game won't be pretty. And it will really probably just come down to a few key plays in which somebody either makes it or doesn't, turns it over or doesn't, executes in the red zone or doesn't, makes the field goal or doesn't. And that's unfortunate. I'm not going to sit here and dwell on just the negative. I'm saying it's hard to get a sense of what this game even is today for many reasons, not just because neither team is any good, but because the nature of the sport has changed significantly.
Yeah, you have more stories typically like you do with Deuce Robinson, where dad played for the university. He said earlier this week to the media that this is the most important game of his life. And I'm sure he feels that because his dad on that field in a 4th and 14 situation came up with one of the biggest catches in the rivalry's history in terms of setting up a totally unexpected, in some ways, it's got few peers in terms of shocking finishes, just shock value in this rivalry. There are a lot of great finishes that had stakes with national championships on the line, but in terms of pure shock value, I don't know that 0-3 can be beat. Maybe 97 there because of the late rally that Florida had to win the ball game. Of course, the choke at Doak, but that wasn't a winner. It was Florida State won that day, but nobody in the record books obviously won. But that was a build over a good 30 minutes where you're like, oh, this is going to happen. Like the Ricks to Sam play preceded by Ricks to D-Rob, that was absolutely bonkers that happened in that moment. And that's 22 years old now, that particular play, which is why Deuce is here and playing as an upperclassman in this moment. You would normally have about 6 or 7 of those type players on the field. Instead, what was thought to be really strange, another guy that played for 2 teams in the state, remember Brock Berlin? Played for a couple of programs? That's now the norm. Alex Atkins coached with a Florida Gators ball cap on the sidelines last year, lest we forget. Richie Leonard is our offensive lineman this year, and that's the second time he'll play against the University of Florida if he's obviously healthy enough to go and do so. But that's the norm of where we are in college football now. It will never change for you or me when you see those 2 helmets on the field at the same time. There's extra pizzazz. But I think part of the reason that this feels a little bit more flat is not just the records this season. It's that, as we went over earlier in the Jeff Cameron show, that there have been a lot of duds in the last 20 to 25 years of this specific rivalry where you're not arriving on the field at the same time with those intentions. One of the reasons that in a different rivalry that Florida State Clemson in 2013 was such high stakes was because Clemson thought that they were the prohibitive national championship favorites. And then we told them the truth that night. And they learned within a quarter that, oh, no. But there were real stakes and there was real anticipation. for this rivalry, one that formed my youth, there hasn't been but 3 or 4 occasions, maybe since the turn of the millennium, in which the two teams arrive with stakes, real stakes on the line. Beating each other is always important, but you know what I mean. The reason this thing went someplace different in the 90s, you were in the stands for all of those games, was because somebody was hoisting a trophy at the end of the year, and it wasn't just, a gator head or a spear. It was probably the national championship trophy was going to the winner of this football game.
Or an opportunity to play for it, for sure.
Correct.
Yeah. Or an opportunity to play for it. Yeah. I think that's the whole thing. I do miss that. I do lament that about the game. I said during the JCS, when you were just referencing it, look, Ohio State, Michigan doesn't feel like it used to. I don't care anything about either one of those teams, but they are blue bloods in the sport. And we know that was an elimination game for years and years and years. And that Ohio State team that just won the national championship a year ago would have been eliminated last year in the most improbable fashion, losing to that Michigan team. Now they could lose to Michigan and it will not matter. They probably have a bye locked up and will be the 1 seed. So it's just kind of crazy and frustrating. And that part of it I don't like. I now kind of get, and I'm getting older. And so we've watched this play out over the years together. And I appreciate everybody coming along for the ride. Now that I'm getting older, I get it when the old heads, as my kids like to say, the unks, as my kids always say, they used to say to me when I was a lot younger than you, Tom, that the rivalry can't be a rivalry if the other team isn't also good in participating in said rivalry. Well, what they meant was it couldn't grow to the magnificent level that it did if the other program didn't exist at the level that it did. And now I see it. I was the kind of kid and guy and growing up that would say, I don't care if we beat Miami 30 years in a row by 50. I never want them to have a good season again. That may still be true. But I also get the other side maybe more than I did. I get that you want to feel the nerves that come with important matchups, with something on the line, something that really matters. And I guess that brings me to our latest lament. Well, I'm less concerned. In fact, I have no concern about Florida's plight. I care deeply about our own. I do lament that the rivalry is face down in the ditch.
Yeah.
That the rivalry is of zero consequence to the world of college football.
It's unthinkable from where it was 30 years ago. It's unthinkable that would be possible, but it's the reality of where we are. I do think that should this rivalry continue, I know I'm not saying that it's not going to, it's just that college football is burning everything to the ground tradition wise. So we got to make sure we're in the same conference in probably 5 years. In order to guarantee its future. Look, Florida just came off playing Tennessee. They don't play in November. What? They just played the previous week, last Saturday. Florida and Tennessee play. That's always been a September game. I think this game, and I think a lot of the rivalry games will move off of this weekend because the stakes of conference championships and or the playoff will be the thing that people draw their eye towards. And I think that's what you're talking about with Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, Michigan's a top 15 team this week. Ohio State is, obviously in the catbird seat in the top 25 rankings. College football playoff, they got a bye week lined up, all that stuff. But yet, that game used to be the game, in the Big Ten especially. I don't know. Like there are stakes for Michigan, but not a ton of stakes for Ohio State. So it takes the shine out of it. And there's no danger factor for Ohio State to lose that football game. So it takes the shine off of it. But if you played that September the 20th, hey buddy, that might set the stage for either of those two teams' run towards the playoff. So I think we're going to be moving off of this weekend probably in the next 10 years in which this game is played. But all I know is as I was down there for Thanksgiving, and there's a lot of families get together, and I see my niece who's going to Georgia. She's a freshman at Georgia. What a season she's had to witness in her first year. Just so much entertaining football. She was on a flight Friday morning. She had to get up at 5:15 to leave for the airport to be able to get to Atlanta in time to go to that game. And seeing the pictures of all the things that are going on at school and the tailgates and the game day atmospheres and the traditions, I recall what it was like, and I'm sure you do too. The first time I left my Thanksgiving dinner table that next morning to drive to this game. And it matters so much. It matters so much. I remember my family staying in the driveway, and I put the flag on my car as I drove away, and they're all just cheering because this is it. that is always going to feel that way once the ball kicks off. I just wish it felt that way on the Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday before the game, because it always did. And right now it doesn't, and that stinks. But it will once they kick it off. It will again.
Yeah.
It always does for me, and it always does for you for Miami, even when both teams are terrible.
Yeah, no, it does. We are at a really weird spot. But Florida's been down for quite some time, and obviously we now decided to join them inexplicably, and then do nothing about it inexplicably. And that can take away some of your thrust for all of this. It is tough to stomach. I'm being honest about the mindset. You're right. When the two teams are on the field and you get visual confirmation that the game is being played despite the records, then I think you will say, okay, yeah, F them. Both sides maybe simultaneously would mutter those exact words. Oh, they are going to play it. Well, in that case, F them. And, that truly will be eternal. And I agree with you on that. But boy, oh boy, conjuring up the emotions for it ahead of time is very, very difficult. Now, at the end of the day, I said it at the outset, there is actually something on the line for Florida State. And that is, if they win, they guarantee a non-losing regular season, which is nice on the heels of 2-10. If they win, they're guaranteed to go to a bowl. And from what I'm looking at, that bowl may very well be in our hometown, our stomping grounds, if you will, our home area anyhow, and an opportunity, I suppose, for people to have fun at the Gasparilla Bowl. But we'll see if, in fact, that happens. And I do think if you remain hopeful that despite Mike Norvell being back at the helm to coach after winning a grand total of 7 games over the last 2 years and losing, 16 of them so far over the last 2 years? I think that's right.
We're at trying to avoid 17. Yeah.
Yeah. If you are still able to conjure up hope, well, then this game does matter, because presumably some of the people that will help you win it will get extra practices and will be back next year, and they would be part of any solution, including with the head coach, that comes to pass for Florida State getting out of this mess that they find themselves in. And for that reason, I think we could use the extra practices. I thought those extra practices would be a moot point if you were moving on from the head coach, but you're not moving on from the head coach. So I suppose those extra reps and extra practices with him would be of benefit.
Yeah, I mean, just think how much better we can get on special teams with those extra practices. I think that would be a good place to start. Probably should spend a lot of time there. In all seriousness, coordinators, if there are new ones that are hired for assessment purposes because guys leave of their own volition, that would be a benefit. If you do have some front office folks that are going to bring their own mindset in terms of the way that things could be built and should be built, it would be valuable to be on those practice fields more than 10 times so that you can see what you got and you can better define what you need. And then also, it forces players' hands if they want to leave. If they either want to leave for the NFL, like in the case of Deuce Robinson, or if they want to leave for another school and enter the transfer portal, I doubt they're going to show up to practice for a bowl game. So you would have a better grasp of what your roster realities are going to be, with maybe some players that are under rev share contract for next year that are going to be need to pay their buyout or whatever it is. There's a lot of reasons that it can help you speed up the clock and better crystallize what your 2026 roster can be if you win this game. If you don't, you don't know if the kid's going to go, in the portal or not, because there's no, what, is there a workout he's going to miss? Is that as important as, the practices themselves? That's where there are actual benefits that can help you in 2026 beyond the obvious if you were to win this ball game.
In the remaining 25 minutes, we will take a look at the actual matchup, I assure you. In fact, we'll do it next on the other side of this here on Warchant Game Day. Then remember, cornbread hemp CBD gummies can help. If you've been looking for a more natural way to relieve aches and discomfort, the CBD gummies from our friends at Cornbread are formulated to work with your body and not against it. So a little peace of mind, relaxation, maybe you're struggling to sleep, whatever it is that you need to add to your wellness plan with, you can with Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies made to make you feel better, whether it's stress, discomfort, or a little relaxation that you seek. All products, third-party lab tested, USDA organic to ensure safety and purity. Right now, Jeff Cameron Show listeners can save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Use code WARCHANT at checkout. Some days it's Cameron, other days it's WARCHANT. Today, it's cornbreadhemp.com/WARCHANT. Look at this. One of the ways that Florida State can win this game is stopping Florida from running the football. I'm going to start there because it's the most important aspect of the game. Florida's really, really, really bad on offense this year. Most of the season, they were bad on offense because DJ Lagway sucked. And a lot of why DJ Lagway sucked was that I think for the first 6 to 7 games of the year, he was playing hurt. I'm not real sure why. I guess that might be just undying affection and love for his head coach. But whatever the reason, he was highly ineffective. And really mechanically began to break down, did not do things that a sound quarterback would do from a footwork standpoint or release standpoint. He's had his moments where every now and then he flashes the ability that made him one of the highest ranked quarterbacks in the 2024 class, and a reason we were all a little nervous about what Florida could be if he got better on the heels of last season where he showed real promise. He did not. Their offensive line's not elite, but what they do have is a very, very physical running back who will beat you up, and will run hard. In fact, he's a better running back than any running back we have, and it is very, very annoying to look out on the field, and you'll see this as you do when Florida State plays Florida, but Jaden Baugh is one of those players that Florida has that you say, well, golly, they got better guys. They got better dudes. He has 904 yards. That's 31st in the country. He's third in the SEC, and he's really, really rugged, man. He's able to run the ball even in situations where teams know he's going to run the ball. He's able to run the ball against better run defenses than ours. And it's the reason I worry about this game in particular. If Florida State does not stop the run, they'll lose this game. And Florida's best player is the one who's remained healthy, and he'll be toting the rock for this game. Do you agree with that assessment, Tom?
I do. I've kind of liked the way that we've rallied to stop the run in recent weeks. I know that the stats against Virginia Tech don't look pretty because he gave up around 240 yards that night, but that's all they can do. And so it's not like you gave up 240 on the way to giving up 550 total.
Right,
there's a difference. It's like, yeah, if you give up 290 yards to Gus on the ground, you're like, yeah, I don't know. How many points did they score, right?
Right.
I think that's the story of this game here, too. I think that the way that Virginia Tech is built offensively is not all that dissimilar from Florida. You've got a hulking quarterback who's inconsistent with his arm. He's willing enough to run, but you have a bruiser back. The difference is that this kid, to your point, is a larger and better player than either of Virginia Tech's running backs. I think they got a couple of good ones. But it's a similar type opponent. It's similar to what we've seen. It's all about heart, and it's all about intent, and it's just so hard to know. And that sounds silly, even in this situation, as silly as this situation is, but that Florida State has a shot at a bowl and Florida doesn't, and Florida just quit on its own field against Tennessee the last week. Talked to a couple people that watch every second of every game of Florida, and they both told me they don't know each other. I've never seen it like that this year. That looked different than even the Kentucky game. That was alarming. I wonder if they're totally just checked out. It's interesting that even though Florida might be in that position, that we do need a gut check on FSU. At some point, do you go on the road? And I know we don't play well in road games, but at some point, do you go on the road and your defense starts to capitulate a little bit? Against Clemson, I thought they were ready to go from Jump Street. Against NC State, they played well. I thought very well for the bulk of that game. Are they willing to do it again? If they are, I think there's a shot that Florida State gets ahead in this game, and then you can see maybe this losing streak on the road come to an end. But it really feels like 7-0, 7-3, 10-3. Whoever gets that higher number earlier is going to be in a real position to run away with this thing by 2 or 3 scores.
Yeah, it tells you about the fragility of both teams. I agree with you. If Florida State goes on the road and gets the lead early, does Florida lay down the way they did against Tennessee? It was 31-0 before you could even blink in that game against Tennessee. That is not something Florida has done with great consistency. I know the Kentucky game exists, but if you go back through the vast majority of the games Florida's lost, they've certainly played hard. In fact, we lamented the fact that Florida refused to give up at any point during all of these losses over the last several years. They fought hard for Billy Napier. They really did. And it was admirable. It told me that he did have the heart of this team. They did care about him. They did play for him. And they also had pride in what they were trying to do, even though it didn't work out in most cases, save for the game against Texas. But they have played hard. Although, again, now you've seen 2 games. And so you begin to wonder, they did fire the guy. Is their attention span waning? Have they decided this is fruitless? I'm leaving. I'm transferring, whatever it might be.
Yeah, this is, again, somebody who watched the Kentucky game and the Tennessee game and said the Tennessee game didn't look like the Kentucky game. It was you're like going, oh, no, this is a special brand of lack of energy. And what's interesting about that is while this game holds a rivalry designation, you take a look at the 4 games they played under an interim coach. Georgia, they got up for it. We all understand that. And they had a real shot to win that football game at the very end against Georgia. Kentucky, that week after, nah, not really. They hit the road to go play Ole Miss. They were up for that game.
Could have won that game.
Tennessee came into town. That's a rivalry game for them too. And Tennessee was ranked. We are not ranked. We are not special on people's schedule. So if you're looking for that, well, when Florida State gets off the bus, they're going to be ready to go. Man, I don't know. We're not that game for people anymore. Like NC State beats Georgia Tech.
They did not.
No, they did not. Georgia Tech. Let me throw that second very important designated word in there to differentiate between Athens and Atlanta.
I was going to say they would not beat Georgia either.
They play them in their own building, and that offense goes ham that night, and they win. Even though Haynes King has 400 yards, they win that ball game because they got up for a top 10 opponent coming to town. Did they look like that when we played them last week on a Friday night? Did NC State look like they were geared up for the game of their season? Hell no. Because we're the worst team in the ACC the last 2 years. So while the rivalry is there, and we just got done talking about how it feels special for fans when it kicks off, I don't know. They just quit against another rival that they play from inside their conference in their own building. So it's not a home road thing. If I'm a Florida fan, I'm going, I don't expect us to care today. And for us, Florida State, we should. We've got something on the line in theory today. We'll see how much the announcement that Mike Norvell is being retained has an impact, perhaps one way or the other, on how hard we play. I'm looking forward to seeing that too.
To the point I was making about the need for Florida State to stop the rush if they are going to get the win and they do care to play, and let's say both teams try real hard. The offensive success numbers for Florida look like this. They're 116th in the country in passing success. They're 18th in the country in rushing success. And they've got a dude who can do something about it. So that is the whole thing. You circle that right off the bat. Now, the offense as a whole has not been good. You look at their total numbers, the EPA and all that, it's not good. But when they are performing well, it's because they're running the ball and having success doing so. And for Florida State, Tom, you are right. I mean, they've rallied to stop the run a lot. They've done a good job against the run when they've had to. Now, balanced offenses have given them a real hard time, and we know that's what balanced offenses do. But if you look at the success rate stopping the run defensively, I think for Florida State, they are, yes, there it is, top 50. They are 45th in success rate stopping the run, whereas anybody with a pulse and can keep their quarterback upright lights us up in the secondary. We're 76th in the country against the pass. And, again, they haven't faced a ton of great passing offenses. When they do, they give it up. Lagway has not been great, but I think most importantly for Florida State, the thing that they get help with is they don't really have to worry about Florida's passing offense in the way they would have, say, 4 weeks ago. They have had so many injuries. If you're a Florida fan, you go into this game and you just start with the freshman, the Dallas Wilson kid, who's such a superstar. Eugene Wilson III, those two are beasts. I would have a real worry if those two guys were playing here. Vernell Brown III has been banged up. They've had all kinds of problems keeping their wide receivers healthy. And Lagway's been inconsistent. The receiver's been unhealthy. Offensive line's been average of protection. That's what's led to the bigger problems as the season has gone on with a lack of a passing game. That means that Florida State can shift their entire focus, most of their focus, on making sure they shut down that run.
And this is the part of there's a player or two on offense that make you smile, but the defense, if you're looking for a side of the ball that gives you a little bit of something and juice, I think it's defense, because you've seen improvement specifically after the Pitt debacle, which was an all-timer of a performance in the wrong way when you're talking about hesitancy. Now they play downhill. I think they got away with a few things and got lucky against Wake Forest that a couple of explosive plays were called back because of penalty. But, hey, those count. From that point forward, Florida State's defense has not been the problem. In fact, what you have seen is continued growth and instincts, playing downhill like they're thinking less. This would be another opportunity to do that. If you can get Florida off the field a couple of times early, they punt, and the crowd feels blasé, and you go down and you score. That is your path here for Florida State to win, is to just chin strap it up, be men, get after the run. They have done that. They've done it again. They did it against Clemson, I thought, in really impressive fashion. They're going to give up a 19-play, 9-minute drive. That's the score that the opponent is guaranteed to have. So that's fine. But other than that, really, take those long drives out of the ball game. Florida State has been pretty impressive defensively. I thought in the throes of the Clemson game where it was 8-0, and we couldn't get anything going on offense because we were dropping passes and blowing wide open things left and right. That defense, when you played the field position game, continued to rally near the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage, get downhill. You're going to need every ounce of that will today, I think, because Florida will do enough, I think, to chin check. Because if it's fun and they're winning on first down because ball is gaining 5 and 6, they're going to do that over and over and over again. But if he's gaining 1 or 2 and you do that, let's say 4 or 5 times in the first 2 drives and they're in 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, they might just take the ball and walk over to the sideline and let you have it. I hate that that's the subtext of a game like this, but I think that that's legitimately the subtext of a game like this.
Darrell Jackson, Daniel Lyons, man. I've been really, really impressed with both of them. Darrell Jackson in particular. What?
Yeah, Lyons has had a good season too.
Yeah.
You see a lot of like the little things too about hustle plays, even when it's not his half of the field, or if it's 20 yards down the field and it was a screen pass, he is there. Number 5 gives you a whole lot of effort.
Yeah, those two guys have been my favorite players to watch on defense. I've been very, very impressed. Ashland Barker, when he's healthy, is my other favorite player to watch on defense. But to me, it's Darrell and it's Daniel, and this is a game for them, man. And they're going to have to be monsters. And, it's also, to me, a game for Herring to be great because this is a game where he can use his physicality in the run game. He was a tackling machine upon his arrival in Tallahassee. He ought not have to cover a lot, which is problematic for him. So that's the whole thing.
Be alert on mesh rail on 3rd down. Let's get him off the field in those situations. Yeah. If it's in front of you, make the play. Hell, guys like Blake Nicholson have been doing that with more consistency, the latter part of the season. If it's in front of you, go make the play. But you're right, up front for the D-line, D is the important letter. Darrell, Daniel, the Desirs, these are the guys that you're going to ride with today, or we're releasing this on a Friday, but these are the guys you're going to ride with for the last game of the year. And keep going for the Desirs. Been a really good season. And it's not just Mandrell. Darrell had a couple of moments last week, too, that he stood out.
We'll flip it a little bit here while we're on the subject, because the last segment is just us making a prediction and saying goodbye. So let's look at the other side of it. Florida State's offense against Florida's defense. And Florida's defense, it's also not been great. It's certainly not been great against the pass. 114th in the country against the pass in defensive success rate. They are top 50 against the run. So that does suit them coming into this game to shut down Florida State's rushing offense. Florida State, meanwhile, is, again, dealing with a lot of skewed numbers here because of 2 games in which you scored over 60 points and put up over 700 yards of offense in one game and 600 in another. But the passing success rate has not been good for Florida State. The rushing success rate, again, I think a little skewed, has been good. How do you see Florida State attacking Florida's defense here? It sets up for you to be able to throw the ball. I can't trust Tommy to throw the ball. So.
If there was ever a season to have a gosh darn quarterback.
Yeah, imagine that, Tommy.
I'm talking about a downfield passer who runs a 6'5", 40. I don't care. This every week. Don't we do this all of our
Every
opponents?
week, somebody is set up to sling it, and you don't have somebody who can.
Boy, you can really take advantage of their secondary. Like it's some insight against Virginia because they were really bad defensively against the pass, and it's been the same scout every damn week. I don't know what to expect there because I think Gus, to start games, has done a pretty good job of tendency busting and catering calls to that effect. That's what he did against NC State. We went right down the field, and dudes are number 6, who ended up being there for 3 or 4 key plays, was roasted over and over again.
We hailed a hero.
Yeah, because we're underthrowing the ball, and he rallies just in time to get the, I guess, because he didn't give up and stop running, we give him some credit for those plays. But I thought the same thing at Clemson. You went against a lot of tendencies on the road at Clemson against a pass defense that was porous. Things were open, and you just missed the guys. I mean, if there ever was a time for Tommy to be consistent throwing the ball down the field, it was after seeing the start against NC State last week. It was not a perfect throw, but an adequate throw to Deuce Robinson down the sidelines. It was, I thought, a very good throw to Danzy. Not perfect, but a very good throw over the middle of the field. And then there was another one to the right where he threw outside the numbers. You said, well, that's right on the friggin' money. Okay, Tommy. And then same first drive ends how? By throwing to LaWayne McCoy like Manute Ball was on the shoulders of Yao Ming. And that was the target of the guy, just 30 feet over his head for an
off of 1 foot and jumping in the air.
Right, with the pogo stick body action as you're letting go of the ball. Yeah, it's hard to say because I don't know what Gus's game plan is going to be. He might say, the hell with these tendency busters. I can't trust this kid, so let's run the ball. I would also be curious to see if Kevin Sperry plays. What do you have to lose to play Kevin Sperry? I'm not saying to start the game. I'm saying to play over the course of the game.
I'll be disgusted if it happens because you should have been doing it all along if that was your plan. What are we doing? You needed to find out what Sperry was long before now. I don't. Now we're going to play him? Okay. If it happens, fine, whatever. We'll judge it. We'll talk about it. We'll analyze it. It is what it is. What were we doing?
Well, in a weird way, I almost feel like if you're losing, you might put him in because he's at 3 and they clearly want to keep his shirt. So you can play a 4th, but if you're ahead, you probably don't because maybe you let him start the bowl game. I don't know. But yes, let the damn kid play at this point. I would hope that you get to see that at some point today.
Yeah. Okay. I will be frustrated when it comes to that, but we'll see. I think they're going to line up and try to run the offense at its core. It's basic principles. I think they're going to run Tommy. Listen, here's what I think. I think Tommy's probably not coming back here next year. And I don't know. I think Tommy might want to be back here next year, but I think we need to move on from Tommy going into next year. If, in fact, I'm moving on from Tommy next year, then Tommy's going to run the ball 47 times in this game. And I don't care if every muscle in his body aches for the next 6 years. This is why you're here. It's the only reason you're here. Who are we kidding? You're not a great passer. Run him some more, and then run him again. This is what you need to do. This needs to be sort of an Alabama look again. Let's go. Bring back some of the motion that we used to have, some of the things that he hasn't done in a long time. Run this thing like it's the first game of the year because you can throw caution to the wind. You don't have another game.
Well, and it very well might be true that Gus doesn't have another game here as the offensive coordinator because he's only focused on the game against Florida, not his contract, which says that he needs to be here after that. He's just focusing on getting Florida State to a bowl game.
Quote, unquote, yeah.
This could be a grand opening, grand closing to the Gus Malzahn offense.
Good. Close the doors. Pull the shutters. We're done here. Blow that thing up. Throw it into the ocean.
Rich Waltz, Miami Marlins. Light that thing up.
Yeah, yeah, man. Patting down the hatches, get rid of this thing. Let's go. Start over. But anyhow, that's an aside. We'll come back and wrap it up and give you our final thoughts on Warchant Game Day in a moment. Look at these hollow socks. See this? Hollow socks. These are the boot cut. This is the boot cut hollow sock right here. I will tell you, I took these out of the package because I'm going to wear them later. They're not the boot cut. These are alpaca. Something to do with alpaca's performance socks. I've got these hollow socks that they sent me. Let me tell you something right now. I don't say yes to all the endorsements. I don't. But when Tom told me that Hollow Socks wanted to send me some socks, the boot cut, I got the compression sock, I've got the everyday active sock, I've got all the different kinds of socks. I'm not an expert on socks. All I asked Tom was, are these fine folks that are sending me socks, Hollow Socks, are they comfortable? Are these good socks? And he said, well, I don't know, but they're going to send them to you and you get to try them. And if you don't want to talk about them, then we'll say no. But if you like the socks, then make sure you talk about them. So I'm talking about them because I love them. They're comfortable. They're great. I wore a pair on Monday to work out. That's the true test. When I work out, I got to have comfortable socks. You can't be out there sweating in uncomfortable socks or having them feel weird in your shoe. Not only they did not feel weird in my shoe, they felt great. They felt comfortable. They felt supportive. They felt like I should be working out in them. They're really, really good socks. And I think most of you watching this are like, all right, I like a good pair of socks. Socks are underrated. I mean, I know people who spend all kinds of money on socks, and at the end of the day, you really can't tell the difference. I could tell the difference with these socks. I like them. That's why I showed them off to the camera. I think you'll like them too. They've got socks for camping. They've got socks for hiking. They've got socks for hunting. Hunting's not my cup of tea, but if I were hunting, I'd like these big old thick long ones that go to your knee, right? Especially when it's cold outside. They've sold over 2 million pairs of socks. So a lot of people are just like me saying, I'm down with the socks. I like the everyday socks and the compression socks. Those are my two favorite. For a limited time, Hollow Socks is having a buy two, get two free sale. Head to hollowsocks.com today to check it out. Hollowsocks.com for up to 50% off your order. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, and you can support the Jeff Cameron Show by saying, I heard about the Hollow Socks in the Jeff Cameron Show. Look at that. Do it. Go to hollowsocks.com. Get you some Hollow Socks. Get those alpacas. They're good.
Hey, this is Jay Green from Hotel Indigo Tallahassee. Can I stop and say thank you? Thank you for telling your guests to stay with us. Thank you for hosting your corporate meetings and social events in our rooftop meeting space. Thank you for hanging out with us on FSU football game days. Believe it or not, this sales guy isn't selling anything. I just want to say thank you. But if you've never seen our rooftop and I can ever help, give us a call, 850-755-9011. We are Hotel Indigo Tallahassee. Welcome to our neighborhood.
Wrapping it up on this Libations Friday / Game Day Saturday, end of the year, post-Thanksgiving, could be final, Warchant Game Day. Oh, that's left. It's all over but the shouting, kiddies. I think all of us are ready to put down the pitchforks and the anger and to take a deep breath and watch a football game, see what happens, contemplate the future of Florida State football afterwards, good or bad or indifferent, and then go from there. I don't know how many more ways we can talk about this team's foibles and problems on the road, how many more ways we can discuss the loss of a rivalry or the lack of pizzazz surrounding said rivalry. So all that's left is for them to play. We'll see. I think ultimately, hopefully for everybody involved, we get both teams playing their very best brand of football, whatever that might be, and we see a good football game that Florida State wins, and the road losing streak is snapped, bowl eligibility is captured, and we'll go from there. That's obviously an ideal set of circumstances. I have no reason to believe that will happen. Neither team has given us a reason to believe that they will come out and play well, partly because Florida has been bad all year and is now decimated by injury and has fired their coach. And for Florida State, they have not played well on the road yet this year. So it'll be interesting to see. Do they make it a first Saturday afternoon? That is the hope, that they find a way to play better than they have on the road. I don't know. You often point this out, Tom, and you're right. Hope is not a plan. I can't quite put my finger on what could possibly be wrong for this team that is so much better at home than on the road, why their games look so different home and away, and why he has not been able to lock them in and get them to understand the consistency you have to play with in order to have success on the road. Let's hope today it happens by hook or by crook. If that's a byproduct of Florida having thrown in the towel and go through the motions, and thus you get your road losing streak snapped, fine. If it's because you go out and earn it, preferable. Either way, I'm ready for it to be over.
Yeah, well, the answer is because he's not a good coach, and maybe he once was, and maybe he can be again, and we get a Rocky montage for the ages this offseason.
He 100% was. He was a good coach at one point in his career. He's lost his coaching mojo for now. Yes,
he's not a good coach right now. He's not in the solar system of a good coach right now, and that's unfortunate. But that's what the offseason's for. It's for improvement. This game, unfortunately, today is an insult to this rivalry. But you know what you can do to Florida? Add insult to insult. That's what you can do today. And I want it. I want this win. I know this is beneath what this game should be, and we talked about that a lot. But I want it bad. And I think Florida State has more players that care when the game starts. The question is, do they drive the care out of Florida and accentuate their own investment as the game goes on? I think Deuce Robinson cares a lot about this game. I think Tommy Castellanos, God love him, cares a lot when he takes the field. Is it perfect? Hell no. But does he care? Yeah, I don't question that. Not at all.
No, by the way, it's important to note, for all the problems that we've documented with this team and the frustration surrounding the situation, I really don't think that they've been a team that quits. They didn't show up against Stanford. And that was, to me, the most depressing result of the year, because not just that you lost to a god-awful team, but you quite clearly were not prepared to play and did not show up to play. But other than that game, Tom, I feel like they have shown up, and I feel like they have played hard. They haven't always been good. They were terrible. The defensive game plan was awful against Pitt. They looked unsure of themselves, and they got exposed. But they played hard. They were right there with a chance to win that game in the second half. So, I feel like they've always played hard. I have no reason to believe they won't play hard in this game.
Yeah, the hard part is it's that intangible. It's like what is that missing piece? And that's why coaches get paid a lot of money to provide a tangible to the intangible. And that's where this season has been extremely disappointing, because you could argue that they're very prepared on the road at Clemson, that they're very prepared for at least some facets of the game against NC State, and you just don't go execute the plays. Well, if the plays are there to be made, that means that the preparation was there and you're throwing the ball to the right place. You're just not good enough / wound too tight. And I think that's part of the problem here that they need to address in the offseason. And maybe it could start today for some of these younger players. That's what you're scraping at the bottom of something, and maybe that's the morsel that you can find. But Mike has clearly projected timidity to his team. How else can you explain Randy Pittman, who has hands like Anquan Bolden dropping a wide open pass, or any number of examples like that, where they're totally out of character moments or freakish moments that rear their head when you have to have a play, you don't make it. They're wound too tight. Play loose today. That would be the thing that I'm hoping to see the most. It's just, if they play a little bit looser, I think they've got horses that are invested that'll go get that W done. But, if you have a big 3rd and 6 and there's a throw over the middle and it hits Lane McCoy right in the hands and he drops it, and then you go for it and Tommy throws a pick on the next play, that is equally as predictable, or right now, because that's who we've been all season long.
I'll say this. If both teams play their very best game, I think Florida wins. Florida has better players. They've out-recruited Florida State consistently, despite the fact that Florida State's been the better program over the last number of years prior to this stretch of unbelievable poor play. There was no reason in Billy Napier's tenure that he would have out-recruited Mike Norvell, but he did. So I worry about that. But then again, they're all banged up, and they're not playing well, and I don't really have a lot to care for about this game. Who are you picking?
I'm going to take us. It's an SEC team that we're playing away from.
Oh, I like it. There you go. That counters it's a road game, Tom, argument.
There we go. It's objects and forces. They collide, and I think that we're going 4 in a row against the SEC away from home, and it's going to be funny to say all offseason that we had 2 SEC wins and 2 ACC wins in 2025. Tom
picks Florida State. I'll take Florida. And I want Tom to be right. Thanks for watching Warchant Game Day, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday to talk about it all. Until then, take care.